On this week's episode of the Algorhythm podcast.
Regardless of what you believe, something evil happened in Salem Village in 1692.
Viewer discretion is advised.
Welcome. Episode 7 of the Algorhythm podcast.
It's already episode 7. That's crazy.
I know.
Real quick.
Eventually we'll look up and it's episode 7D.
Do you remember like when we were getting the equipment and shit, and the gap just felt so long, like we hadn't done anything in so long?
Oh my god.
It felt like 5 months, and now we're already on episode 7, dude.
Yeah, just prepping like the intro video,
Yeah.
the intro music, which that took forever to do.
Yeah. Which
Everything
was
all right?
fire.
Everything all right, Todd? All right. Just prepping the intro music, prepping everything. Sweetwater's dope.
Yeah, bro, that place is so cool. And like that's what I was telling you. That place is literally like world renowned, bro. Like it's the best place in the world. And I mean, once you get there, you can kind of tell.
We're fortunate enough to live like 40 minutes away from Sweetwater, which is like one of the best sound places in the world.
Yeah.
It's kind of like a modern day museum.
Yeah, they have
Walking
a
into
museum
that
in
place.
there. They have the store. There's like actual recording studios you can go in there and book. There's all kind. They have the distribution center right behind, so like you get your stuff. You don't even have to like pick it up off the shelf. You just drive back there. They brought it straight out to the car. That place is super cool. Man. They got a concert venue, all that stuff out there.
Yeah, and they have so many workers in there. Like you walk in there, you'll feel overwhelmed,
Yeah,
and they'll get you whatever you want.
yeah.
You just tell them what you're there to do. Boom, boom, boom.
It was
boom,
almost
boom,
like
boom,
buying
boom,
a
boom,
car,
boom.
bro. You just like
Yeah.
kind of just walk up to them and they take care of you. It was an awesome experience.
Okay, today's episode is just me and Mr. G.
G Freezy.
I'm your host, Carl Holiday.
Shout out to
The people
Tom.
that love the big fella call me Big Barrel.
That's Big Burl.
And obviously Mr. G.
Yeah.
The ladies aren't here today. They chose to stay out of today's episode, which is...
They chose to stay off the trails.
Yeah, shout out
Shout out to
Tap In.
Tiff, yeah.
Yeah,
Tap
shout
In.
out the Salem Witch Trials. Episode 7 today is Salem, discussing the 1692 Salem Witch Trials. Regardless of what you believe, evil shit happened. I think I
Definitely.
said that in that trailer. Like,
Definitely.
I mean, literally, whatever you believe. I mean, you could go as to say, like, there was some darkness there. You could go as to say it was just mass hysteria, which led to the execution of 20 people.
Insane, man.
Yeah. And
Kind of a side note, real quick. Shout out to Barrow on all the graphics and stuff, bro. All the stuff leading up to.
I'm
this
getting so
episode,
good.
bro. He's
I'm
getting
getting
nasty
so
with the
good.
graphics,
I'm
with
getting
the
so
editing.
good
It's
at it.
crazy.
I don't like tooting my own horn, but that shit.
I'll
I'm
toot it
getting-
for you.
I'm getting really good at that shit. I sent you like just what the photos look like
Yeah,
before I edited them. You can do a lot of shit with AI.
yeah,
AI is insane.
Yeah.
I'll just say that AI is
yeah. Those photos were crazy, but like some of the transitions you used in the video, like that, these
Yep.
are fire. Hit
Yep.
him up for all your rap music videos. I think
Yeah.
first video we're gonna do with Posted T, so
Facts.
stay tuned.
Shout out Posted T.
Yep.
Hope you get released soon. Make sure you guys are following us on all social media.
Facts.
YouTube, slowly growing, but it is growing.
It is growing.
TikTok. You want to know the weirdest shit about TikTok? I don't think I've talked to you about this. You've had someone with you working. We usually talk. I just uploaded the Salem trailer. It's doing okay. One of our Delphi murders TikToks randomly got like 1,000 views on it.
Wow.
It's at like 1,600 views.
Nice.
And it's getting more and more and more and more and more and more and more views. It's
Yeah.
got us like 10 or 15 follows just randomly. I posted like 3 weeks ago.
Yeah, and it kind of went slow at first, which is usually
Yeah.
like the opposite with the TikToks. Like you'll get like a bunch of views right at once, and then it just dies off.
Sometimes like that's how the algorithm works. Like
Yeah.
you'll post a video and it just hits it.
It's that wave.
And then or you'll just post it and it'll say stagnant.
Yeah.
Starting to learn that you just let it ride.
Yeah.
You let it because sometimes I'll delete a video because I know it didn't hit.
Right.
And then I'll repost it and then it hits.
Yeah.
Which is it's insane how it works.
Well, I think it might just be because kind of we hit that wave on the Delphi stuff like right when all that new information came out. So
Yeah, I think that episode's got like 500 views.
yeah,
Which
I think that info has kind of slowly trickled out to the people that's kind of stayed in touch with that
Yep.
whole case. So.
Yep. And as that case gets even more hotter, closer to the beginning of the year, it'll pick up even more too.
And we're definitely going to touch back on that one.
So I didn't realize before picking the Salem episode, obviously Salem is an insane episode to cover. I didn't realize how many people have covered this episode during Halloween.
Oh, I know. I kind of noticed that today because I was kind of just brushing back up on stuff today while I was at work, and it was just like, Jesus, bro. I didn't realize like how hot of a topic this
It's
was.
a super hot topic because there's a lot of different theories.
Yeah.
There's things that can't be explained about it, and there's things that can be, but it's I was talking to Todd. I say this every episode, but I was talking to Todd. And there's a like he was saying like, yeah, I know stuff about Salem, like they were like burned and stuff, and that's a myth. Like
Yeah,
nobody was ever
burned
burned.
at all, yeah.
Nobody was ever burned.
Which
That's
is
like
weird.
Hollywood shit.
Yeah, that's like how it's always portrayed.
Yeah.
Like people were burned at the stake, and that's just not what happened.
Yeah, that's just like the Hollywood thing. And the witches that we're going to be talking about isn't the type of witch
Yeah.
that you would think of.
Right.
Like Hollywood, it's, you know, hocus pocus, the top hats, you know, the dark makeup, and, you know, just the crazy looking witches. No, these are just like young girls.
Yep.
Just accusing people. And okay, it's bad. Let's get in. I don't want to spoil the episode.
No, we gotta
Follow the socials: Spotify, YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, Instagram. Don't say Threads, motherfucker.
Threads. Patreon coming soon.
All right, let's get into it. It is safe to. It is a quick note just to understand how far long ago this was. It was before America.
Yeah.
Like 1776 is when we got our independence from Britain.
So this is like the beginning of like settling here.
Yeah, this is like the beginning. Like people were just like fighting over land, which that's a big thing
Yeah.
in this story. Is like people like accusing, like this is my land, this is your land. Okay, witch,
Yeah.
hung.
Yeah.
Go on.
A lot of pointing fingers, I think, is what kind of went into this stuff.
Yep. The events in Salem, nights.
This is gonna be a blooper reel. Oh, you got to.
I gotta like get a straight face. If I slip it, you're just gonna see us laughing and shit.
It's so hard not to say that. Though.
1962. Yeah. Because it's like the 6 and the 9 are together.
Yeah. 69.
Nice. Yes.
Grow up, guys.
The events in Salem in 1692 were but one chapter in a long story of witch hunts that began in Europe between 1300 and 1330. Stop. I'm not even fucking cutting it this time. Between 1300 and 1330 and ended in the late 18th century. With the last known execution for witchcraft taking place in Switzerland in 1782. Which that's crazy. Almost 100 years later, they still were executing people for witchcraft.
It's crazy how that, like, I don't know. I feel like you'd get to a point where, like, all right, this is just too much. And they just never did, really.
Which well, Salem did.
Yeah.
So Switzerland was obviously still.
Yeah, that's
bullshit.
over in Europe and stuff.
The governor intervened.
Yeah.
In Salem and was like, "This is fucking stupid.
Yeah.
What you guys are doing." The Salem trials occurred late in the sequence after the abatement of the European witch hunter fever, which peaked from the 1580s and 90s to the 1630s and 40s. Some 3/4 of those European witch hunts took place in Western Germany, the Low Countries, France, Northern Italy, and Switzerland. The number of trials and executions varied according to time and place, but it's generally believed that some 110,000 people in total were tried for witchcraft, and between 40,000 and 60,000 people were executed.
That's
60,000
insane,
people
That's
were killed for
insane.
being a witch.
Man,
That's like,
that's wild.
yeah, I didn't really know that until I did this, and I just 60,000 people, witch dead.
Yeah, and it could just be like literally somebody just going, "He's a witch."
Right.
She's a witch, and it's just, and that's, I think that's one of the things too. Like a lot of people just chalk this up to just like women. It was like men. It was anybody really.
Yeah.
Anybody that got the finger pointed at them, or wasn't religious. I think that was another big thing where like people weren't religious and they'd get the finger pointed at them.
Some of them that were got the finger pointed at him. It started. It at first started with the people that weren't,
Yeah.
and then it just snowballed right down the hill.
That was one thing I kind of saw too. Is like the meaning of like the Puritans and like the pagans. Like it started out like pagans were just like people that just lived like outside of like the major city or the main place, and then it turned more into like these
straight
people,
religion.
Yeah, like if you followed religion, and pagans were people that didn't follow religion, basically.
They talked weird back then too.
Oh,
like
yeah.
I've listened to like some documentaries, and just like how they would talk, like who affects thee, just like poetry kind of talking.
Yeah, like Old English.
Literally Old English. Yeah.
The hunts were efforts to identify witches rather than pursuits of individuals who already were thought to be witches. Witches were considered to be followers of Satan, who had traded their souls for his assistance. It was believed that they employed demons to accomplish magical deeds, that they changed from human to animal form, or from human form to another, that animals acted as their familiar spirits, and that they rode through the air at night to secret meetings and orgies.
Yeah.
There is little doubt that some individuals did worship the devil and attempt to practice sorcery with harmful intent. However, no one ever embodied the concept of a witch as previously described. The process of identifying witches began with the suspicions or rumors. Accusations followed, often escalating to convictions and executions. The Salem Witch Trials and executions came about as the result of a combination of church politics, family feuds, and hysterical children, all of which unfolded in a vacuum of political authority.
Yeah, so there, like we were talking about before the show, there was just so many things that factored into the mass hysteria. But obviously we'll get into the story of the Salem Witch Trials and the Salem Village. The thing that can't really be explained is why the children were acting crazy.
They're acting the way they were acting.
And there's a lot of theories behind that. There's like some scientific theories, and then there's some tinfoil theories, like the tinfoil hat theory.
Yeah. We like our tinfoils around here.
I love the tinfoil hat theories. I lean more so on the side of the conspiracist rather than the that didn't happen type of person.
Yeah.
I always have like the eye in the back of my head.
Yeah.
Which you have to.
Yeah, I think you definitely got to, because I mean, I think it's a huge combination of a lot of things, but you know, there always can be that little thing back there that isn't explainable that could cause things. So.
Let's go off script a little bit. Do you believe in like types of magic and things that just certain type of things that a normal person wouldn't believe in?
I mean, I've watched so many things, like even just not even related to this, that are unexplainable. It's like I would need somebody to prove. Like that's just kind of how I am. Like I need to see it to believe it, but I also need somebody to like prove to me that it's not real. You know what I mean? So like, there's things out there that it's like are just still to this day unexplainable, and nobody can prove it wrong. So it's like, I don't know. I always have, like you said, you know what I mean, kind of always have that in the back of my head that there can be things that just make stuff unexplainable and nobody is ever going to explain. I think there's like energies out there and things like that maybe some people have, you know, the ability to tap into.
Yeah, I'm going to dumb that down just a little bit because I believe in the same thing. You believe in the undiscovered.
Yeah.
Like you believe in the things that cure for cancer.
Yeah.
There's a cure for cancer, right?
There's got to be.
It's just
there's a cause.
It's just not discovered. There's things that we don't understand yet that's out there.
All right.
Just look at the alien shit that's happening right now. We don't understand that. Yeah. Maybe we don't understand dark magic or magic itself, the energy that you talked about.
Yeah. And that's what I'm saying. I'm not sitting here saying like, oh, like somebody could make you levitate with their hands, but like at the end of the day, there's probably, you know, like even like looking into like the pyramids and stuff like that. There's pyramids on every single continent, and
explain to me how someone who's like fucking crippled can lift up a car when they need to.
Maybe some of these like ancient civilizations were able to tap into those energies that we weren't, and you know, had different types of what would you call it, like technologies that we have no clue how to use nowadays.
Yeah, you like I go back to the car thing. You literally hear stories of people like being able to lift, like someone trapped under a car, and a Joe Schmo just walks up and lifts the car.
Oh yeah. Like stuff like that. Yeah, that's unexplainable.
You can't explain it.
No.
Which we have to do an unexplained
Yeah.
like what would you call it? Like unexplained mysteries or
Yeah.
not unsolved mysteries,
yeah,
but
yeah.
like unexplained events and shit. We have
Yeah.
to do an episode like that.
Yeah, I'm down for that. I love stuff like that. Because there's plenty of there's stuff like that documented where like the kid will get ran over and their mom comes out and like picks the car up like you said. Stuff.
Yeah, I've seen a video of
Yeah.
that shit.
Yeah, so it's like who knows what their body like what caused them to be able to do that, because any regular day they're not gonna be able to do something like
It
that.
goes back to saying like who like magic and shit like that. Who am I to fucking say, oh, that's not real?
Yeah, and it might not be like what we perceive as
Exactly.
magic, you know what I mean?
Exactly.
So,
It might not be what we perceive, but energy, regardless of what you believe, is fucking real.
Yeah.
Like energy is real.
Yeah.
Okay. There were two Salems in the late 17th century. A bustling, commerce-oriented port community on the Massachusetts Bay, known as Salem Town, which would evolve into modern Salem. And roughly 10 miles inland from it, a smaller, pouring farming community of some 500 persons known as Salem Village. The village itself had a noticeable social divide that was divided by a rivalry between its two leading families. The well-heeled Porters, who had strong connections with Salem's town wealthy merchants, and the Putnams, who sought greater autonomy for the village and were standard bearers for less prosperous farm families. So we have two big families so far in this town.
it's kind of crazy, like how you always, I don't know, it's just like that tribal thing that humans have. Like there's always just like a pick sides thing from like the beginning of time.
An alpha.
Yeah.
Yep.
And then somebody that's just kind of like, oh, we're gonna help anybody and everybody, like, which could go into the obviously where we're gonna get to here in a little bit, the pointing fingers thing.
A lot of fingers.
Yeah, a lot of fingers.
Don't say 1989.
In 1689, through the influence of the Putnams, Samuel Parris, a merchant from Boston by the way of Barbados, became the pastor of the village Congregational Church. Parris, who largely theological studies at Harvard College, now Harvard University, had been interrupted before he could graduate, was in the process of changing careers from business to the ministry. He brought the Salem village to his wife, their 3 children, a niece, and 2 slaves who were originally from Barbados. John Indian, a man, and Tituba, a woman. There's uncertainty regarding the relationship between the slaves and their ethnic origins. Some scholars believe that they are from African heritage, while others think that they may have been of Caribbean Native American heritage. Parris had shrewdly negotiated his contract with the congregation, but relatively early in his tenure, he sought greater compensation, including ownership of the personage, which did not sit well with many members of the congregation. Parris's orthodox Puritan theology and preaching also divided the congregation, a split that became terribly visible when he routinely insisted that non-members of the congregation leave before communion was celebrated. In the process, Salem divided into pro- and anti-Parris factions.
Yep, already split.
Yeah, so that's kind of what I just talked about a minute ago, how people just kind of started choosing sides.
Yep. One thing, the John Indian and Tituba, it says their relationship is uncertain. People think that they were husband and wife. This is going to go to one of the further along we get into the story. Like, this is where I was talking to you about at the beginning of the show, like before the show started. Like, we don't know about these fucking people.
No, not too much.
Like,
and I didn't even know, like, I watched a lot of stuff, read a lot of stuff, and I didn't see anything about this John Indian guy, so this is kind of new to me. I heard about Tituba.
Yeah,
A lot of the people talked about
Barbados,
Tituba.
Like, that's that voodoo dark magic shit.
Yeah.
Like, that's where that shit originates from, I believe.
Yeah. And who knows, kind of like what we talked about, like, how long have the people been there, and, might have tapped into those energies that we were just kind of talking about a minute ago.
Yep.
Yeah.
Probably stimulated by voodoo tales told to them by Tituba. See? Tituba's already telling the kid, like this script that we're reading is kind of like pro bullshit. Like, the witchcraft is like bullshit.
Yeah.
But like how it says probably stimulated by voodoo tales told to them by Tituba. Why is Tituba telling kids voodoo tales?
Right.
See what I'm saying? Like, that's the shit that I'm talking about. Probably stimulated by voodoo tales told to them by Tituba, Parris's daughter Betty, age 9, his niece Abigail Williams, age 11, and their friend Ann Putnam Jr., about age 12, began indulging in fortune-telling. Uh-oh. In January 1692, Betty and Abigail's increasingly strange behavior, described by at least one historian as juvenile delinquency. Of course, a historian describes the behavior as juvenile delinquency. How the fuck do you know?
Right.
How do you know? Like, were you there 350 years ago?
I think a lot of this stuff is kind of like a lot of American history too. Like people put their own spin on this stuff. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
There's so much shit that we've been taught in schools that's fucking bullshit.
complete
bullshit.
Yeah.
Shout out Christopher Columbus.
Yeah, don't say that. We'll get us canceled and shit.
Right.
I seen a kind of off subject. I seen a post that Muncie made. Muncie's like city's Facebook page.
Oh yeah.
It said like Happy Christopher Columbus Day or Happy Indigenous People Day, and these people just went nuts on the post, bro. Like nine, like every fourth post was like "fuck Christopher Columbus."
I don't think kids get out of school for Christopher Columbus Day anymore.
I don't think so.
I don't think so. When we were in school, we did.
I don't remember. Did we? Yeah. Did you ever get out of school? I don't think I did. Not for Christopher Columbus.
I thought I did. Maybe I'm tripping.
I don't know.
Could be one of those
Maybe
fucking.
I'm tripping. I don't remember.
Maybe
ever getting out.
could be one of the Mandela Effect things. Mandela Effect episode coming soon, by the way.
Bingo.
Like third week of November, I think is when I want to do it. If you're all good with that. Mandela
That's
Effect.
great.
All right. Betty and Abigail's increasingly strange behavior, described by at least one historian as juvenile delinquency, came to include fits. They screamed, made odd sounds, threw things, contorted their bodies, and complained of biting and pinching sensations. Looking back with the perspective provided by modern science, some scholars have speculated that the strange behavior may have resulted from some combination of asthma, encephalitis, Lyme disease, epilepsy, child abuse.
Right.
What? Delusional psychosis, or convulsive ergotism. The last a disease caused by eating bread or cereal made of rye that has been affected with the fungus ergot, which can elicit vomiting, choking, fits, hallucinations, and the sense of something crawling on one's skin. Side note, the hallucinogen LSD is a derivative of ergot.
Yeah. So like I've read a little bit about ergonism, and it was like talking about how there's two different types. So like the one that like there's a type that makes you like vomit and actually be like physically sick, and then the other one's like the one where you're gonna trip, like a hallucinogen or whatever. So it could have been. I think they talked about too like how that year, like the crop, it was kind of like a cold, wet summer, stormy summer,
Like very damp.
Yeah, so it was like they said kind of like perfect type of climate for that stuff to happen when it came to harvest. So
Yeah, I don't know much about it. I mean, I know scientists tried to refute it, but it's just like,
who knows? I mean, what were the conditions? How much of a difference were the conditions? You could say that, you know what I mean? They could write that stuff down, but how different was the Earth 300?
like this was
years
340 years ago. What, 1692? Do the math. Fucking 300. That's 1992, and fucking 330 years ago.
Yeah.
Like, you don't know that.
Yeah.
Okay, given the subsequent spread of the strange behavior to other girls and young women in the community and the timing of its display, however, those physiological and psychological explanations are not very convincing. The litany of odd behavior also mirrored that of the children of a Boston family, who in 1688 were believed to have been bewitched, a description of which had been provided by the Congregational minister Cotton Mather in his book Memorable Providences Relating to Witchcraft and Possessions, which was wrote in 1689.
Back to you, Cotton.
In which may have been known by the girls in Salem Village. In February, unable to account for their behavior medically, the local doctor, William Griggs, this dude is super important.
This is the wild part, right?
This is a doctor. This is fucking Doc Baker from Little House on the Prairie,
right,
walking in and saying, witch, witch.
Yep, you're right. Get her out of here.
Yeah. The local doctor, William Griggs, put the blame on the supernatural. At the suggestion of a neighbor, a witch cake, quote unquote, made with the urine of its victims, was baked by Tituba to try to ferret out the supernatural perpetrator of the girl's illness. Although it provided no answers, its baking outraged Paris, who saw it as a blasphemous act. Okay, so this doesn't really get into the whole witch cake shit.
Yeah, that shit was crazy.
It's fucking insane. So they had Tituba make a quote-unquote witch cake
yeah.
with the girls who were accusing the people, or with the girls' urines.
Yeah.
Okay, and
That were accused, right?
no, so the girls that were throwing the fits and shit,
Yeah.
they made a cake with their urine, and the story goes is like Tituba would feed their dog the cake,
All right.
and if the dog eats the cake, which I think it's one of two things, it's either whichever cake he ate from, like, I don't know if she made several different cakes with several different
And then
urines
it picks one or
and then picks ones,
Yeah.
or it's he eats the cake of all the urine, which that might be it too. He eats the cake of all the urine, and whichever girl he like goes to,
Yeah.
she's the one that's she.
No wonder the
listen,
governor eventually stepped in. These motherfuckers
listen to me.
tweaking, bro.
Listen, this is what happened. They literally made the dog eat the cake with all the girls' urines. Okay, so and then when they set the girls up in line, and she's like, "Okay, here, come here, lassie." And wherever the
Right.
dog goes to, that's the chick that's like bewitching the girls. That's the theory that these fucks were thinking about back in the day.
I'd be going home after church, like, all right, guys, pack your shit.
Like,
We're out of
look,
here.
I'm just going back to fucking England. Bro.
Right? Yeah.
Shout out the king.
Oh,
Right.
shit, man. Shout out the king one time. That's
Holy
hilarious.
shit. Man, to live in 1692, I'd be hung, dude.
Oh,
with,
yeah.
with my beliefs.
Yeah, bro. Yeah,
I think
we'd
we'd
be
all
out of
be
there.
fucking hung.
Yeah, we'd be out of there.
Yeah.
Pressured by Paris to identify their tormentor, Betty and Abigail claimed to have been bewitched by Tituba and two other marginalized members of the community, neither of whom attended church regularly. Sarah Good and Sarah Osborne. On March 1st, two magistrates from Salem town, John Hathorne and Jonathan Corwin, went to the village to conduct a public inquiry. Both Good and Osborne protested their own innocence, though Good accused Osborne. Initially, Tituba also claimed to be blameless, but after being repeatedly badgered and undoubtedly fearful owing to her vulnerability status as a slave, she told the magistrates what they apparently wanted to hear, that she had been visited by the devil and made a deal with him. In 3 days of vivid testimony, she described encounters with Satan's animal familiars and with a tall, dark man from Boston who had called upon her to sign the devil's book, in which she saw the names of Good and Osborne along with those of 7 others that she could not read.
Okay, so this is like a big thing. One thing I don't really understand is how do they know that Tituba felt that way? Like, okay, I feel the pressure, and now I'm just going to say, yeah, this is what's
Right.
going on.
Maybe, and that's what I'm saying. Like a lot of this, I mean, it's so long ago. Like, I think a lot of it was probably just left up to interpretation and then passed down. You know what I mean? Through
Yeah.
writings and like we've known.
I feel
before,
like we
said
got a
earlier.
good chunk of the story right.
Yeah.
I still feel like there's some like cracks that we're
Yeah.
missing that could connect.
And like
the
I said,
dots.
I mean, you could feel one way and write a completely different story than the other guy. You know what I mean? So,
Hollywood's done it plenty of times.
which I think,
You ever seen The Lords of Salem? It's a Rob Zombie movie.
No.
Dude.
Is it good?
Oh my fuck, dude. It's so good.
I'll have
It
to
takes
watch
place in Salem. Like this chick becomes like it's Sherry Zombie. It's Rob Zombie's wife. She's just like the single girl in Salem, and like she's like by herself, and like she has heritage from generations ago from
the
witches. It's so good.
I'll have to check it out.
So good. My bad. Got off topic.
No, I was just saying, like, with some of that stuff, I feel like, I mean, there's even different accounts from all this stuff from different angles. So it's like, I mean, I feel like almost to the point of where this stuff could have been started from some of this what they call witchcraft, but then just kind of got to the point where it was like choose sides. And it turned into like almost like a Mean Girls thing, like
Yeah.
we don't like you, so like
Witchcraft could have played a very, very small part in it, or it could have played a very, very big part in it, or it could have played nothing in it.
no part at all.
Like,
Yeah, it could have just been.
tho-
Like,
I
hey,
think
we don't
those
like
are the
these people,
cracks.
let's get them up out of
Yeah,
here.
I think those are the cracks that we're missing.
Yeah.
The magistrates then had not only a confession, but also what they accepted as evidence of the presence of more witches in the community, and hysteria mounted. other girls and young women began experiencing fits. Among them, Ann Putnam Jr., her mother, her cousin, Mary Walcott. Jesus Christ, is there a bingo card for how many Marys and Johns are in the, like Mary,
I was about to say
Beth,
that when I was reading
and like
John and John.
yeah, and the Putnam servant Mercy Lewis. Significantly, those that they began identifying as the other witches were no longer just outsiders and outcasts, but rather upstanding members of the community, beginning with Rebecca Nurse, a 71-year-old woman of some prominence. As the weeks passed, many of the accused proved to be enemies of the Putnams, and Putnam family members and in-laws would end up being the accusers in dozens of cases. There you go.
So that's the like, hey, yeah, we don't like you.
There you go.
You're dead, buddy.
It's literally the fucking Lannisters of fucking Salem. Like,
You're dead. Dad's dead.
yeah.
Fucking
You don't
outta
like
here,
us,
bro.
fuck you. On May 27th, 1692, after weeks of informal hearings and accompanied by imprisonments, Sir William Phipps, the governor of Massachusetts Bay Colony, interceded and ordered the convening of an official court of oyer, which means to hear, the terminer to decide in Salem town. Presided over by William Stoughton, the colony's lieutenant governor, the court consisted of 7 judges. The accused were forced to defend themselves without aid of counsel. Literally. You're literally just defending yourself. This is, okay, so the Salem Witch Trials is where the term witch hunt comes from.
Right.
Like, this is, like, it's a witch hunt. Everybody's against you. This is where it comes from.
Yeah.
Like, this is where, and at the end, I think it says something about this. This is where we adapted the ability to counter accuse the accuser,
Right.
and to have defense, like someone defends you.
Yeah.
Okay, so because back then, if you were to counter accuse the accuser, you'd be fucking hung instantly.
Right. Yeah. And this dude's still going by Sir, so he's got to, like
Facts.
you already know, he's a fucking psycho.
Lord.
Yeah. Get him the fuck out of here, bro. That's what we left.
Yeah. Most damning for them was the admission of spectral evidence. That is, claims by the victims that they had seen and been attacked, which is pinched, bitten, or contorted by the specters of the accused, whose forms Satan allegedly had assumed to work his evil. Even as the accused testified on the witness stand, the girls and young women who had accused them writhed, whimpered and bobbled in the gallery, seemingly providing evidence of the specter's demonic presence. Those who confessed and named other witches were spared the court's vengeance, owing to the Puritan belief that they would receive their punishment from God. So pretty much, if you were like saying like, yeah, I'm like bewitched right now, like I'm confessing.
Yeah, you'd be cool.
You'd be cool.
Right.
But back then, like, I think I'm about to get to that part, like, true religion existed, like true religion.
Yeah, that was law almost.
So the people that were very religious were like, no, fuck you, I'm not a witch, and it cost them their lives.
Yeah.
Those who insist upon their innocence met harsher fates, becoming martyrs to their own sense of justice. Many in the community who viewed the unfolding events as travesties remained mute, afraid that they would be punished for raising objections to the proceedings by being accused of witchcraft themselves.
Right, that would be like, I feel like the whole place would just live in fear unless you were just like one of these people that were just looked at as at the top, you know what I mean? Yeah.
Zipping my motherfucking mouth, bud.
Zipping my mouth, and I'm just going to sit here and watch people get
I know,
kicked
I
off.
mean, you can say those people were very courageous in their beliefs, but man, it cost you your life.
I'd have been up out of there. I'd have been
Yeah.
like, let's go.
I mean, you can call me a coward if you want. They're just on a witch hunt.
Just
I don't know,
imagine
sounding
that, like
cliche.
living in a place like that, like a settlement like that. Though, like where do you go if you're trying to leave? Because they're like they even
True.
in some of the stuff I was watching and reading, like they talked about like they were still like obviously still having feuds with like Indians and stuff at that time.
Yeah,
So
that's
it's
true.
like, where do you
It's
even
not
go?
like you can just go to fucking
Yeah, I'm just
the
gonna head
next
down the
town
road to
over.
the next town and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hit up the gas station, some shit.
That's crazy. On June 2nd, Bridget Bishop, who had been accused and found innocent of witchery some 12 years earlier, was the first of the defendants to be convicted. On June 10th, she was hanged on what became known as Gallows Hill in Salem Village. On July 19th, 5 more convicted persons were hanged, including Nurse and Good, the latter of whom responded to her conviction by saying that she was no more a witch than a judge was a wizard.
Fuck yeah.
That's tight.
She was like, if I'm a witch, that motherfucker's a wizard.
Man.
Yo, a wizard, Harry.
and she was not the girl who lived.
Right. You can't. Those fucking videos on you.
sorry.
God.
When I make my
When I make my move,
you be free to take the coin.
you're free. No.
It's gonna sacrifice himself. Those are the best, bro. All right, back on topic. Here we go. George Burroughs, who served as a minister in Salem Village from 1680 to 1683, was summoned from his new home in Maine and accused of being the witch's ringleader. He too was convicted and, along with 4 others, was hanged on August 19th. As he stood on the gallows, he recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly.
That's what I was telling you about.
Yeah, which
Dude
is
was
wild.
Like, dude's like, look, I'm reading the Bible verse. How can I be?
Which at that point, I kind of think it just like enforces the fact that like some of these people were literally just like, we don't like you, you're fucking dead.
It's the I think you're about to get to it. Like, he's literally up on the chair standing, and he's like, look, a witch cannot be reciting the word of God.
Yeah.
And the people in the crowd are like, he's not a witch.
Yeah, and it kind of goes back to like what we just talked about in that last written is like, do you even speak up at that point? Like, I'm sure there are people there were people that did, but it's like, I mean, what do you even do at that point?
Yeah, they're probably like saying like, oh, I don't think he's a witch, but like not like
not like, hey, no, let's not do this
yeah.
shit. Yeah, wow. So he recited the Lord's Prayer perfectly, something no witch was thought to be capable of doing, raising doubts about his guilt for some in attendance. Though their protest was refuted, most notably by Mather, who was present. Mather's role in the trials in general was complex, as he at various times seemingly both condoned and questioned aspects of the proceedings. On September 22nd, 8 more convicted persons were hanged, including Martha Corey, whose husband Giles, upon being accused of witchcraft and refusing to enter a plea, had been subjected to a strong and hard punishment and pressed beneath heavy stones for 2 days until he died.
Shit is insane.
So they didn't throw rocks at him; they pressed him.
Yeah, that's what I was trying to tell you. Like,
well,
like
when you said stoned, I'm thinking like, what's the book where they stone somebody every year? It was like kind of like, have you seen Hunger Games? Like how they have the Hunger Games every year. There's a book, like an old book that they would draw from a hat every year, and like if your name got drawn, you got stoned, and it was like a sacrifice of some sort. And they just would like kind of like burning somebody at the stake. They would strap them to a pole and just throw rocks at them. The whole town would throw rocks at them until they die.
What the?
Yeah, so that's what I thought you were talking about when you said that.
No,
But
this was like slow.
That's insane. So they basically just stacked rocks on this dude until he just died.
So there's a quote that I heard today when I was doing some research and I was listening to a documentary. He said they with each stone they would lay on his body, they would ask him, "Do you refute your claims that these girls aren't witches?" And he goes, "No, sir, more weight."
Wow.
71 years old, keep piling the weight on,
Straight
bud.
G, yeah.
Yep.
At that point, 71's probably like old as dirt. I mean, so
Yeah. Oh yeah. No medicine or
Yeah,
nothing. Like
yeah.
he's frail. Yeah.
So he was probably just, as
Bro's
honorable as
eating
could
wheat,
be.
not steak and shit. Like,
All right, back to it. As the trials progressed, accusations spread to individuals from other communities, among them Beverly Malden,
these are like
Gloucester,
Yeah, these are towns.
Andover, Lynn, Marblehead, Charlestown, and Boston. On October 3rd, Cotton Mather's father,
His name is Increase.
Mather.
Yeah, his name is Increase. When I was writing this shit, I was like, is this fucking name Increase? Like, I thought I fucked up.
That sounds like an Eminem album.
Right. The album cover is a plus sign.
Yeah. Increase Mather, an influential minister and the president of Harvard, which is fucking crazy, condemned the use of spectral evidence and instead favored direct accusations, which spectral evidence is like basically like shit you can't even prove.
Right.
That's insane, bro.
Yeah. President of Harvard?
Yeah.
President of Harvard. Shout out Harvard.
Yeah, shout out Harvard for somebody finally coming in and being like, hey guys, we're getting a little fucking crazy over here.
Right. On October 29th, as the accusations of witchcraft extended to include his own wife, Governor Phipps once again stepped in, ordering a halt to the proceedings of the Court of Oyer and Terminer. I didn't know that. Like, they were starting to fucking point at the governor's wife, which
Wow.
Yeah, he was like, no,
Th-
nope.
Well,
Yeah.
like, I don't know. It seems like this just like almost turned into like mob type shit, bro. Like,
Something was fucky, dude.
Yeah.
I'm telling you, something was fucky. It's like, you can't fucking explain it.
No.
Like, people, they tried, like, everything I've listened to and researched have been like, oh, this is like scientifically explained.
Right.
Like, explain it.
Yeah, I don't know.
You try to dumbly explain it by mass hysteria.
Yeah. It's got to be some sort of like power angle too, I feel like. Because you start doing this stuff and then you just start like, I mean, look at all the conquerors from that time and like times before that. Like these guys probably started feeling like they were just
Yeah.
the one.
Putnam the Conqueror.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
In their place, he established a superior court of judicature, which was instructed not to admit spectral evidence. There you go. Trials resumed in January and February, but of the 56 persons indicted, only 3 were convicted, and they, along with everyone held in custody, had been pardoned by Phipps in May 1693, as the trials came to an end. 19 persons had been hanged, and another 5, not counting Giles Corey, had died in custody. I think I was telling you this. It's not in this written. I can't remember which girl it was, but she was pregnant, and she actually had a baby while she was in custody.
I think she had a daughter too, didn't she? Like I'm not like on top of that. She had another daughter. I'm
Maybe,
pretty sure.
maybe.
I think I do remember.
I have to do some research, but she had a baby while she was in custody, and they let the baby die because they thought she was a witch.
Man.
Fucking insane. In the years to come, there would be individual and institutional acts of repentance by many of those involved in the trials. In January 1697, the General Court of Massachusetts declared a day of fasting and contemplation for the tragedies that had resulted from the trials. That month, Samuel Sewell, one of the judges, publicly acknowledged his own error and guilt in the proceedings. What?
With probably nothing happening.
Oh, wait till I get further along. In 1702, the General Court declared that the trials had been unlawful. In 1706, so this is, 14 years later, Ann Putnam Jr. apologized for her role as an accuser.
Which I meant to say something about this earlier. Any chick with a junior in her name, get her the fuck out.
Right.
You gotta know right off the bat,
Yeah.
she's a loony.
One of them, I don't know that this is in here. One of them actually came out and said she lied about the whole thing. Yeah, one of them came out and said that.
Yeah, this like, I guess like as a child, you don't realize how. I mean,
But they had to have known back then, like, doing this is sentencing people to death. Or you could be putting your own life at risk.
I don't know, man. There's so many things that run through my head. It's like, were their parents telling them to do this stuff? Because, you know.
Think about how 9-year-olds and 12-year-olds act today.
Yeah.
Like, they're fucking off the wall.
Yeah.
They're off the chain. Like, now just put them in 1692
Yeah.
with no MyPads or nothing. Yeah, they got to have some fun doing something if that's their
To
fucking
come out
way
and
of
literally
living.
just say, like, I'm sorry, after you literally got
20 people killed.
20 people killed and years of just hysteria in your area, like, that was a
Bar.
hysteria in your area.
Okay, 22 of the 33 individuals had been convicted and were exonerated in 1711 by the Commonwealth of Massachusetts, which also paid some $600. I don't know if that $600, which fucking at that time.
Is that like pounds? Is that like the sign for pounds?
I don't know if
what
that's
that is.
pounds or whatever. That's fucking has to be a lot back then.
Oh yeah,
Like fucking probably over $1 million at least. I would imagine.
ain't worth somebody's life though. That's the worst part about stuff.
Oh,
Like that.
absolutely
They come
not.
out and say,
Multiple
like,
lives.
We were wrong. Here's some money.
Which also paid some 600, let's just say, dollars to the families of the victims. In 1957, I got that fucking right. 1957.
Let's go.
The state of Massachusetts formally apologized for the trials. It was not until 2001, however, that the last 11 of the convicted were fully exonerated.
Jesus.
So 300 years.
That made sense.
Right. I hereby pardon you.
Pardon you.
The
In the
abuses,
grave for 300 years.
the abuses of the Salem Witch Trials would contribute to changes in U.S. court procedures, playing a role in the advent of the guarantee of the right to legal representation, the right to cross-examine one's accuser. That's what I meant, like to counter,
yeah, to
like
have
you're
a
fucking a
rebuttal.
witch, yeah. and the presumption of innocence rather than guilt. The Salem trials and the witch hunt as metaphors for the persecution of minority groups remained powerful symbols in the 20th and the 21st centuries, owing in no small measure to playwright Arthur Miller's use in The Crucible of 1953 of the events and individuals from 1692 as allegorical stand-ins for the anti-communist hearing led by Senator Joseph McCarthy during the Red Scare of the 1950s. That is the end of the Salem Witch Trials.
Crazy time.
Like,
Crazy time.
I just, like, some of this shit will just leave you fucking speechless, dude.
Yeah, because it's almost like what they were accusing people of really led to no harm as far as like the things that they were doing. Like none of the people that were said to be possessed were actually harmed
No,
by
I don't
any of
think
those
they were, no.
things. Like, yeah, like they ended up fine. Like
They were trying to find the people that afflicted them.
right, but on top, but you know, the things that they end up accusing people of ends up causing more harm in the long run.
I think the 9-year-old girl, I don't know if we read that part, I think the 9-year-old girl actually accused Tituba.
Yeah,
Like,
so.
and like, Putnam or whoever it was asking the girl, he was like, who afflicts you? And she was like, Tituba. Like, she said Tituba, and as being the, like, the slave
Right.
of them, it's like an easy out.
Yeah.
Like, it's her that's doing it.
Yeah.
But on the flip side, like I said, we don't know nothing about this bitch.
No.
Like, there's nothing about this bitch.
No.
And she's already teaching the fucking kids what voodoo practices.
Voodoo. Which could all be, you know, all this stuff could be hearsay too. I mean, this could be just stuff that
Could be all bullshit.
somebody wrote down.
It could be all bullshit.
We'll never know what really happened, but we know that stuff took place, and it's just crazy that people died because. I mean, just think about like, you literally listen to kids right off the bat. Like that's what started it. Listening to little kids, man,
Imagine fucking.
who don't know the consequences of their actions at that time.
I try to put myself in the shoes of like victims and things like that. Just imagine being in one of the victims' shoes, and you're just minding your business, bro.
Yeah.
Like, you're just minding your business, and like all of a sudden you're fucking standing on a chair.
Yeah, like that old man, bro. You
Yeah.
get pressed to death by stones, and you're literally like, I don't care. I'm going down. I'm going out 10 toes down, bro.
Jesus, dude. But I hope you guys enjoyed. I know it's not what some people think of when they think of the Salem
Yeah.
Witch Trials,
Yeah.
but this is the Salem Witch Trials.
Yeah.
Like, this is what has been documented. I'm a horror movie guy, so I love seeing like the witches and shit.
Yeah,
like that.
yeah,
Like,
yeah.
you got to check out Lords of Salem.
Yeah, I'm gonna check it
So-
out. So what's like your overall like last thought, like your final thought on that?
What do I
Like,
think happened, or my thought?
Yeah, just like your whole like outlook on it.
350 years ago would have been a fucked up time to live.
Yeah,
Like, would have been a really fucking bad time to live. I mean,
I think it could have been a little bit of everything mixed together. You know what I mean?
what do I think happened? I'm like I said, I'm the conspiracy guy. So I'll put on my tin hat. I'll say there was some shit that happened.
Yeah.
Like, I think not knowing about Tituba leaves a very big void in this story. Like, if we knew more about Tituba, it'd be easy to wrap this shit up. But we don't know about that bitch.
No.
Like,
And what their background, because
They came from Barbados.
Those are the things that aren't documented. Like that's those could be handed down like folk tales.
like that shit's foreign to us now.
Yeah, exactly.
50 years
And it could be
later.
foreign to people in Barbados. Like
Yeah.
that's just like like hearing something from like a swamper or something. Like
You
the stories passed.
Think
down.
of like when you go to these. You ever seen those videos of those people that just? I'm sure you have. They just wander into like fucking like the forest of like the fucking people that are just living in the forest and shit.
Yeah.
Like the deadly shit. You don't know what the fuck's going on.
No, you have
like,
no clue.
there's so
You're
much
completely out
about
of
this
your
fucking
element.
world that's undiscovered.
Yeah, 100%.
Yeah, there's so much about
Yeah.
it that's undiscovered.
So
I think we'll wrap it up there.
yeah,
Next week, we have Ed and Lorraine Warren.
which I'm ready for this one. This one's gonna be dead.
Yeah, I'm a super, super big Ed and Lorraine Warren fan. I know he's got to get on his Ed and Lorraine Warren shit. You know a little bit about
Yeah,
it.
I know a little bit about it.
Tiffany's got to get on it.
Yeah.
Erica's a fucking freak about that shit.
Oh yeah.
We're going to talk about all of their cases.
Yeah.
Was it real? Was it fake? There's a lot of shit that they did that I didn't know about until a few years back. Like, they covered, they went into the Amityville Horror House.
Yeah.
They were a part of that.
Yep.
The Haunting in Connecticut. There's a movie called The Devil Made Me Do It, and it was the very first time.
I've seen that.
It was the very first time Ed and Lorraine Warren went in front of, I think it was the Supreme Court, and tried to defend somebody who killed someone, and the guy said he was possessed by the devil.
Yeah.
And they have like video footage, and
Yeah.
like it was like national.
This stuff right here is kind of, it's definitely spooky because like this is where you're starting to get into where you can actually like document this
Yeah,
stuff.
I will say this. This documentary that me and Erica watched, it's called Devil's Road, and it covers Ed and Lorraine Warren, like their entire career. They have audio tapes of going inside of one of these houses, and they have audio tapes of police officers sworn testimony.
Yeah.
The chair moved by itself.
Yeah.
The door slammed open by itself.
Yeah.
Like sworn testimony
They
from
wouldn't,
police
they wouldn't
officers.
have all these movies that have done numbers in the box office.
Yeah,
but there
they
wasn't
didn't get a lot of
something to
credit
this.
until later
Yeah.
on. Like,
Yeah.
and people
Well,
started
What was the first one they actually got? Was it the
first Conjuring,
The Conjuring? That's
Conjuring,
The one they
that's
started
the
getting,
one,
They
yeah.
started getting credit on.
and then Annabelle,
Yeah.
and then all that shit.
Yeah, because all that stuff ties together, and they're involved in all that stuff. So
all that shit.
for those movies to do numbers like that, there's got to be something.
Back then, if something spooky was happening, that's who you called.
Yeah.
Yep. So we'll see you guys next week, week 3.
Yeah, definitely. Hope you guys
Spooky
learned something
month.
today too, because I definitely did diving into this stuff.
Yeah, I did too. Like I said, before we covered it, I thought it was just fucking witches burned at the stake, boom, 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 and then you dive deep into it, and you're like, what the fuck,
It's a
dude?
bunch of crazy shit.
Yeah.
So.
Follow all the socials. See y'all next week.
Peace.
Peace.